team. Oh, I thought that's a good start. I like it.
Yeah. Should we start over or not?
No, no, I love it. I love it.
Okay. What do you have for me today?
Today, I wanted to talk about money. Last time we left with the big topic of happiness, and we mentioned the elephant in the room of money, right?
Hmm.
So I thought it was a good idea to resume from there. So the idea is to talk about a lot of different things related to money and life,
Hmm.
life in money with life, etc. And money and happiness is the first point that where we left off. And so my question, I had a question I was thinking of after listening to our latest recording, and it was like, did your relationship with money change with time? Like, if you think back when you were a teenager, maybe like before being a teenager, I guess you weren't probably thinking about money, I guess.
No,
Um,
I mean, I think we all think about money all the time,
but
even
we
as
do,
kids, no?
I don't know. I didn't know what money were until I guess I started getting the allowance from my father.
How old were you when that happened?
I think it was middle school.
Okay. So, but like you knew that money, you could buy stuff with money, right? So, like if you wanted something, I mean, I guess as a kid, you want stuff or like things, and then you realize, oh, you can get sweets for money or a toy for money, right?
Right. No, no, that I knew.
So I think, yeah, I
But I
mean,
never thought about money and me. You know what I mean? That my relationship with money.
yeah, yeah, of course. I think these thoughts and the self-reflection gets more and more as you age. And maybe, some people at our age don't even have that kind of self-reflection at all. But I think, well, when did I get my first allowance? It's a good question. Probably middle or high school. Like
Okay.
I would say like when I was maybe no, probably when I was 10. I think probably I got my no, probably before I got like sometimes my mom gave me like a few euros for or back
For an
then we had
ice cream, the classic
yeah like
movie.
or like buy yourself some whatever. But it was like it usually was like the equivalent of like 1-2 euros or something
Right.
like buy yourself a sweet or
The equivalent because it was like,
yeah it was before the euro
right.
yeah um
So it
and
felt
then
important, felt a lot of money before, I guess.
yeah, I know. Like, I think like back then, like 10. You know what? We had like mark, German mark. What did you have in Italy? What was it called?
Lira, that was the
Lira.
name.
Oh yeah, that's true. It was like a really fucked fucked up
Right.
currency.
But
No?
1 euro was like 2,000 liras.
Yeah, and then
Or
there's the Turkish one. Does it have the same, or did it have the same name?
I
Lira
think it's
also.
Turkish lira, yes.
Yeah, and it was also like, I think the name was like cursed because like I think the lira always like lost a lot of value. Um, and I mean, my relationship definitely changed. I think as a kid, I think you think, oh, money is great, you can get stuff. And then definitely, I think a lot of people, when they're like teenagers and young adults, they think they need to become millionaires and stuff.
Mm,
I think like everyone still, it's on some level, most people still want to be millionaires, right? I think even if people say they don't want to or they don't need it, I think I'm at a point where I'm like, oh, I don't need to be rich, but deep down, I still think it's nice to be rich because you feel like you can do a lot more stuff. I don't know if it's true or not, but I think I think most people go through a phase where they think they want to become millionaires, right?
yeah.
Uh, I want
And
to say I want to say men more than women, but maybe that's wrong. I don't know.
that's a good point. I guess men vocalize it way more. They
Yeah,
talk about money way more, and there's this, like, they say, I mean, there are, I guess, studies about that. You never know with these things because the gender is changing a lot, right? The
yeah, for
perception
sure.
of gender. But um, they say how men, the masculine side of men, let's say,
Mm.
so it could actually apply to women if they have more of their masculine side mature, if that's a word that you can apply. So that side tends to think in goals,
Mm.
achievements.
Yeah,
Um, there's this, like, I really love this philosophy of like thinking about the masculine and feminine side, which again are not related to men and women, right?
mm.
Necessarily, like one can have, as we both have a combination of both.
Mm.
But so the idea, the concept behind it is like the masculine force, energy is a straight line from A to B, achievements, productivity, doing things, right?
Mm.
And because there's this sort of freedom seeking effort.
Hmm.
So that's also why American football, for instance, is like the peak of that image, right? Like you want to, or soccer, like you want to score a goal. There's like
Hmm.
this sort
Hmm.
of like you want to get somewhere.
Hmm.
And while the feminine side is more of is more of the energy of that direction. So these two can be combined, right? Actually, that's why the yin and yang of it. We're getting very philosophical immediately, but like
It goes quickly, yeah.
right, the point is like these two can be combined into like completion, right? You have the direction and you have the energy. The feminine side gives the energy, is the is what powers everything, is colors, is there's this idea of like you can see by looking at a person's apartment, you can see what drives them, if it's more the masculine and the feminine. Do they have a lot of plants? Do they have a lot of decorations? Do they have
Or
like
is it very utilitarian?
right,
Utilitarian, yeah, yeah,
minimalistic, straight
yeah,
to the point, right?
yeah.
Functional. So these are like these. I find it an interesting concept. So I think going back to that, like the main point is there's this sort of like drive, which I think with money it's more clear. It's one of the aspects. So that's I think why. I mean, that's at least my point of view on why men tend to talk more about um,
Achievements.
achievements and so
Yeah.
money. Where, as we said the other time, like was like it's a score, and you keep the score, and you see like where I am compared to
Yeah,
them.
I think what's, I mean, this is maybe getting far away from the topic of money, but I think it's super interesting. And of course, we don't know how much of it is genetic versus nurture, or nature versus nurture. I think the way that men and women, or yeah, I think men and women in their traditional roles in society uh, develop emotionally and intellectually is very different. I think, at least that's my perception. I think um, men kind of develop their emotional side later than women,
Hmm.
but they're like much more goal driven and achievement driven earlier on. I think maybe it's because that's how girls and boys are taught as little children. I don't know, but I feel like women spend much more, or girls spend much more time trying to understand relationships and people, and men are trying to excel and reach goals and so on. That's at least my perception, and I think that's at
And
least
yeah,
yeah,
it's a good point. Is like, is it nature or nurture? Is it like
yeah.
the result of our society that like
It's probably
pushes?
both, right?
Yeah, in a way. And I think, but also you see a trend is you see in school, university, how much women tend to like perform better. It's on many levels, and
On some, I mean, not, yeah, on many levels, but
many
I
levels, not
think both.
everything. Yeah, there
Yeah,
are
yeah,
exceptions, but I see that like more and more happening, and so there's more. I think so. I think it's a combination now. Probably it shows up how the nature side is probably balanced between both genders, and in reality, women tend to have this like drive for achievements, not far from men, but it's just that like culture and society used to like, as we know, like create a lot of issues, and try to like suppress a bit of these
yeah.
achievement driven
I wonder. I wonder if there's studies on how much of it is genetic. I think it's probably not all society, because I think there are certain biological roles of the human body for males and females respectively, and I think it makes sense that women would have a genetic predisposition for family orientation and relationships, because they're the ones having the children, right, naturally.
right.
So, and I think, I mean, my perception again, I think if I try to think back on school, I think a lot of and probably, I mean, it might change now with Gen Z and maybe Generation Alpha and so on, but we're both millennials, and I think if you went back and did interviews with little girls and little boys of our generation, I bet a lot of the girls would still say, their dreams are like having like the prince husband, and like having children and having a great family, and the men are like, oh, I want a lot of, or the boys are, I want a lot of money, and I want a nice car, and
Or
again,
status, right? There
yeah,
was this research I saw that was saying in the past, uh, when kids wanted to be an astronaut or a
Yeah, exactly.
firefighter.
Yeah, and I
uh,
think I think girls probably will say something else. I don't know for
right.
sure.
And
Yeah.
now everyone, boys and girls, they want to be YouTubers. and that's, and that's how our life is changing, right?
Or OnlyFans
Right.
influencers. Yeah.
Is it good? Is it bad? I guess it's bad in a way, but
Yeah. I wonder. I mean, we should look at this. I wonder if kids really say something else now, and I wonder also if the differences of responses of boys and girls are less now than they used to be, and I bet they are less.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think so. I think they are.
Yeah.
And that's good. But then this actually suits very well another aspect which there's always a debate around, which is like money in relationships,
Mm.
because you can think of it like, and the power dynamics, and there's a lot in it, right? Like the idea of like who brings money to the relationship, and how it's managed, and what are the conversations around money. There's a study I read, of course I don't remember from who, that was saying how like most of marriages fail because of money,
Mm.
mostly lack of money problems, right? Because a lot of the
Like
argument.
most as in more than 50%.
Yes.
I find that hard to believe, but I mean maybe I believe it's like the majority, but maybe not the absolute majority.
Mm.
I don't know. Yeah,
But yeah, so it's definitely like it has a big impact, and I think there's a reason for that, because society tends to like reward based on that, and like function. It runs on money, and so like
Yeah,
there's a lot, not just the what you do every day aspect, but is also the effect that it has on like relationships really with people, not just like
yeah,
um, with your spouse or your girlfriend, but like
yeah,
also or boyfriend, but also with friends and family. There's a lot of that, right?
for sure.
There's the envy aspect. There's a lot
Yeah,
of the and
there's a
it,
reason people don't like talking about money. That's because it's kind of sad, but it's true. Because if there's a large discrepancy between friends' income or wealth, it tends to create tension between them. Like for example, you want to go out to dinner together or do like some activity, and it's if it's very costly,
yeah.
one of the one of the people will be maybe resenting the other person. There's also, I mean, people that know me know that I make a lot of Friends references. There's this episode where
Mhm.
they sit at dinner together, the six of them, and three of them have much more money than the other three, and then they have this really awkward dinner where three of them have like this great fancy dish with like an appetizer
Mm.
and a dessert and stuff, and the other one get like a soup and or share a salad because they can't afford.
And
Um,
that's interesting because it's also like, what restaurant do you choose? Do you choose
exactly.
based on
Yeah.
your preferences, or like if you go and have dinner with others? Yeah, I mean, there's a lot in it, and I think there's also this aspect of the, if you can say, like talking about money itself, right? There's this feeling of, okay, wait, I should not talk. Like, should you or should not talk about money
Hmm.
with your friends, with people? Is it like bad? Um, how do you say bon ton? You know what I mean? Like, is it not like recognized as like something you shouldn't talk about? Like, there are different takes on this. I think, I mean, my personal perspective is there's a function of talking about it and sharing information, and I think the lack of it results in a lot of lack of education about money. So talking about it makes sense, but
I
there's
think
like,
it's easier. It's always easier to talk about it when you are in a similar bracket with the other person, right? If two millionaires talk to each other about money, it's easier than a millionaire talking to like a minimum wage worker or two minimum wage workers talking with each other. It's easier because there's not going to be a lot of envy and stuff. That's my guess.
but there's also the experience part. Like, I would like to talk to people that like manage more money, that I do, because I'm sure they can give me a lot of tips. There's just the
Yeah.
approach, right? The perspective,
Yeah, I think, but also you and I are maybe not the most representative of people,
right,
but yeah,
right. But yeah, so I think the money in relationships is interesting because there's no one way to do it, of course, but and it goes back to the cultural, I guess, um, upbringing and the education that you had, like about how to treat that. And we are going more and more, I think, in a fair and equal, not distribution of money, unfortunately, but a fair and equal approach on money from both sides of the relationship. If you talk about
What
a
do you
love
mean?
relationship, meaning that like this idea,
Oh, you mean like in a romantic relationship,
yes, in a
not
romantic
in
relationship,
society?
not in society,
Yeah,
unfortunately, not in society, and
yeah,
that's
probably.
another
It's
aspect.
Yeah, it's funny because like this is a while ago, so I don't know if it's still true, but you might have seen this also because you read a lot of the same stuff. In some book, I read that even like career women that make a lot of money prefer a husband or partner that makes even more.
Hmm. Right. And
So
is
not
it,
sure if that's still
yeah,
true. Yeah,
but what's your feeling on that? Like, I mean, on my end, I have this, okay, let me get to the psychological, my psychological aspect. Like, I would say on my end, I have this drive of like, I'd like to be, in a romantic couple, I like to be the one providing. It gives me a sense of fulfillment. It's not that I have to, right? It's
yeah.
not that it's my place in society or things like that, but it's like I genuinely appreciate being able to provide for the couple and or the family in the future. And so that's, but yeah.
I think I'm probably a little bit of an outlier there. I think this is still true for most people, and I think even people that pretend like they're super emancipated. I mean, both men and women. I think there's definitely some, at least our generation. I think this is still true because I think and this gets into like a dangerous territory. But I think a lot of, I think a lot of people say they prefer women to be more emancipated and so on, but still think about these relationship
Mm,
roles very traditionally. I think, for example, a lot of people still think that the guy should pay on the first date, and these kinds of things. And I hear it from a lot of also very emancipated women, and I find it surprising, to be honest, because um, it does feel uh, a little bit conservative and a little bit old school. And I'm not in that camp. I have to say, I think I prefer an equal partner, but I do see that even very emancipated women sometimes say that they prefer the man to pay. So I think that's definitely. I think it's still very much present in our society that the man is expected to be the provider.
yeah,
And I think there's definitely like some biological component because during pregnancy and early childhood of the child, like the woman just can't provide as much as the men in terms of working hours and so on. It's just impossible.
I love
So
where we're going with this. So there's
it's
one
also
this.
a super dangerous territory.
No, but it's
Yeah.
good to talk about it in a normal, like,
Mm.
peaceful way. I think this potentially goes back to the primordial. Um, if you can
Good
trace,
word.
if you can trace like the basics of like human nature, which we
Yeah.
don't know much about, so I don't want to say like, but what I grasped, and it could be completely wrong, disclaimer, but what I grasp is the way relationships form is due to the fact that men and women want something different, which is complementary, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So women tend to want to like raise, um, build a family the same as men. That's one common goal, right? But women want to find a partner that has the means for survival and for um, growing the child, right?
Yeah, I sorry, I'm interrupting here
Yes.
because I'm thinking back on the beginnings of this conversation, and I also think that a lot of boys, young boys or like adolescents probably more. I think a lot of male adolescents want to make money to attract girls. I still think that's probably the case because that's what we learn in with TV and so on, that
Right.
you can get every girl you want with a lot of money. And I still think that probably a lot of men strive for making more money because they want to attract more women. And I think,
But then again, it's like there is a reason why this is thought like this, right? Because the idea is, it goes back to these basic principles. Like, I mean, not every, let's put it like, one aspect that we have to mention immediately is like, not everyone wants to do what I'm about to say, right? Like, not every
Mhm.
women want to create a family. Not every women want to have kids, right? That's for sure.
Yeah,
But if we have to, we have to generalize to talk about this a bit. And I think the idea is like, how do you signal in a very basic way? Like, how do you signal being able to offer survival, safety in a way, and to offer the ability to like raising children? If you are a man, you signal it by having either status or money, and that's why fame and money are two attraction magnet considered to be, right? Then if you think about it, they behind this there's something else that's completely overlooked, which is the confidence aspect, right? It's not really money and status that like signal this, but is confidence on like being able to overcome any obstacles in life. And status offers that, because if you have status, it means people think you can overcome, right? Like
yeah.
think that, right? And money offers that, because if you have money, you can purchase ways out. But that's not, those are not the only two ways to do it. There is this third aspect, which are actually underneath, I think, and it's the overall principle, the overall aspect that I think in this generalizing relationship seeking aspect, women look for in a man. It's not money, it's not status, is
It's
uh,
probably safety,
yeah, it's the ability to
security.
provide, which
Yeah.
could be like in multiple different ways. And you might be lacking money, lacking status, but still being able to provide long term. And because you're being smart, that's another attractive feature, right? Why? Because it's another aspect of like,
Yeah, in today's world, right? Because like
yeah.
100,000 years ago, it was like the best hunter or whatever. That
But then,
yeah,
are you not smart? Like, if you're a good
yeah. It's
hunter,
like you're like a
then
hunter in today's
right.
society.
So
Yeah.
to that's, I think, and this connects very well to like, the other day a good friend was actually talking about this. There's a book that talks about this, different love languages, and I think
Hmm.
this is super fascinating, because the idea is, every one of us has a different way of showing
Affection.
affection, and there are like considered to be these five different ways, and
Yeah,
some of
it's very
them,
popular. I
right,
think the love languages right now. Yeah.
and some of them are actually very much related with money, or at least influenced by money, right? So there's the five are like words of
Or
affirmation,
maybe money is a means of expressing some of these languages.
right?
Did you do the test
I
of the
did,
love
I
language?
did. So that's also so the, just to say, I don't think we mentioned them. So the five different ways are like words of affirmation,
Hmm.
okay, acts of service,
Hmm.
receiving gifts,
Hmm.
quality time, and physical
Hmm.
touch. So these
Well,
are the five.
what is your ranking? Do you remember?
Funnily enough, my top, I think I scored 30% on acts of service. So I
Interesting.
really
Yeah.
like when people do things for me. Um,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
then I have, yeah,
It's up there too for me. Yeah. Keep going.
okay, that's the first. And then I have quality time,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
um, words of affirmation.
Okay.
There's a bit of a narcissistic aspect, I guess. And
I mean,
then,
everyone has it.
yeah,
Yeah.
physical touch. And the last, receiving gifts.
Yeah. Gift is the lowest one for me too. The highest one for me was physical touch, actually.
Okay.
And this is like going into childhood trauma and and personal experiences with relationships and so on. And we can do an episode on
One could
psychology.
say, I don't know how to take this, but I think the let's put it like this: the feeling I got from this was like, this is actually, you adapt to the way you receive. It might be completely wrong what I'm about to say, but the real feeling I got is like, this result is the result of like the way you were receiving love when you were uh, at early stages of life,
Oh, for sure. I
and then
mean,
you
it
adapted to it, and you're like, okay, now this
100%.
is what I like, because it's the way I got it.
I don't think it needs to be what you received as a child, but I think it's definitely related to I mean, it doesn't have to be equal to what you received as a child, but I think it's affected by how you receive love and attention as a child. Because like, I think, for example, for me, I think words of affirmation and quality time are also very high. Gifts are super low. I mean, gifts I couldn't care less, and I actually think gifts are stressful for me, but that's a different discussion. I hate gifts.
Why?
Um,
No. Let's get there. Why? Why is it gift
I think
stressful?
because I always think of gifts as transactional. Well, first of all, I'm
Mm,
kind of a minimalist, so I hate getting stuff because like whenever I get a gift, like it's just gonna end in some corner or in the trash. Like 90% of the time, I'm not, because like people gift stuff that, I mean, I don't, like I understand the gesture, and some people like care a lot about these things, but usually I'm not gonna use it. It's some gift, it's like, or it's like a magnet or whatever it is, but like I'm not gonna use it, right? And it's just gonna be, it's not good for the environment to gift stuff just to gift it,
mm.
Anyway, I prefer activities. Like if you're gonna gift something, I prefer activities, like doing an activity together. That's quality time. Acts of service is great. If I need to do something anyway and someone does it for me, I'm happy. Like the stuff that I really, you know, always show my girlfriend a lot of appreciation for is when she helps me with certain chores and tasks, like organizing my apartment because I
Right.
hate doing it, or like shopping because I hate
But did you
shopping.
think about? I thought about why this is on top of my list, and I think it's in a very weird way. I see it as like that's way more effort than anything else of the other five, like of the other four languages, right? If you
Wait,
think
what
about
is
it,
more effort?
the acts of service, like try to rank in a very practical way, like those in terms of effort.
I don't. I mean, it depends, right? Because so the good thing, and I think this is why humans are so great, is that we can be good at different things, and something that is a lot of effort for you might be very little effort for me, and that's why we can help each other. That's how companies work, right? And how society works in general. Like, you're very good at teaching, so you
That is
you
true.
you will
Mhm.
become a teacher, and I'm very good at you know uh, agriculture stuff. I don't
Mhm.
even- farming, I guess. So I plant the food for us, and everyone does what they're best at. So I think that's great.
Oh
So
no, that is true. But those are both things.
and I
Like
think in a relationship that's true too. Like in certain ways you're complementary, and then like let's say she loves cleaning and hates cooking, and I love cooking and hate cleaning, and then we both know what we're gonna do in the
but they
relationship, and
both
I think
acts of
that's great.
service, right? Like if
I
you
know,
think
but like I'm saying, like it's for both of us. It's, let's say, for her to cook. I mean, this is not true. My girlfriend loves to cook, but like if that were the case, that for her cooking a simple meal takes 1 hour and a lot of stress, and for me cooking a great meal takes 10 minutes and it's super fun. Of course, that's I'm gonna do it, right? So
okay,
it
but
doesn't have to
compare
be a
it
big deal.
true. This is all true, but compare it to like words of affirmation. Okay, I have to say nice things in the right time. Fine
Yeah,
enough.
I'm
Or
not good at that.
compare it to like gifting. Yeah, that's probably the second, because proper gifting, you could do gifting in multiple ways. That's what you were saying before, right? Proper gifting takes a lot of effort because you have to understand really what the other person wants. And most of the time, I think I don't want like people just gift what they think is good, which is not necessarily what the other person wants, right?
Yeah, it's super stressful for me.
That's
Like,
so I guess that's second, right? But then words of affirmation, quality time is something that is so reciprocal in a way, right? Like if it's quality time for the other person, it's quality time hopefully for
yeah,
you.
but people that at least think they're very busy, I think have the hardest time giving quality time, because like
Yeah.
someone who's super rich but very busy, he's like, oh, I'll just get a gift because it's easy. But quality time I can't do because I don't have time. At least these people exist, right?
Yeah.
And for some people, time is the most valuable thing, so they don't want to gift their time. They want to gift because, like, for them, every minute is $1 million. So they'd rather give $1 million than an hour of their time, because it's just a minute. And here we're back to money, because like
Yeah.
money is a way to measure time and effort. And in
True.
some way, this episode has become more about relationships than about money.
But
But it's
because
interesting. Yeah,
money is like such a relationship, it has such an impact on it, I think.
yeah. I
And
think money is kind of like it's the gasoline of society in a way, right?
and
It's like
this
it
like
yeah.
connects very well to the idea of like I think we both are different from the average in terms of the way we approach purchasing things. And I think
Yeah,
that's why
for sure.
gifting is probably lowest on our love languages, because in a way, I tend to want weird things first. Weird meaning like things that like fulfill my weird hobbies and ideas and experiments. And so I don't buy a lot of stuff, and the things I buy are very specific. And so that's why receiving gifts
Yeah,
is always we is strange for me, because I never get really what I want, unless I
yeah, hundred
expressively
percent.
ask for it, and then the
Yeah,
gift is different, as a
yeah,
different
100%.
feeling,
Then
right?
it's more transactional. Same.
Yeah.
Like most gifts I don't care about, and like even a book, like most books that I get, are not the books I'm interested in, and I know that already. I know exactly what I like to read,
Mm.
so I'm the best person to buy my books. With other things, like fashion, I'm so bad at fashion stuff that if it depends on who buys my gifts, but like if my girlfriend buys some item of clothing for me, that's great because she probably has a better taste than me. But if my mom does, then it's probably not so great.
Right.
Yeah, but I still wear. I mean, I'm still happy and thankful that my mom gets me stuff sometimes. But yeah, I mean, some of the stuff I wear. Uh, but I think in terms of love languages, um, what we said before, I think, for example, quality time and acts of service are very high for me, and physical touch, because I didn't get a lot of it when I was a child, and so I'm craving it more. That's my opinion, actually.
Mm.
Um, and I think because gifts are easy, in my opinion. Gifts are an easy solution when you don't want to
Yeah.
spend time with the other person. I mean, and other people might think differently.
That's an approach people have. I get it. But then also, that it's easy because of the way society right now works, and there's this consumeristic approach on everything, which goes back to money and the fact that, like, okay, you earn a sum of money every month, right? People most tend to do that, right? They earn every month something. Um, I'm not saying you specifically, but like people, and and the thing is, like, a person gets the money, and the way the person decides to spend the money, it's there was this, like, I think there still is this TV or YouTube series where they were like breaking down different kind of people in different kind of cities, their salary and the way they spend money. And it's
Mm,
very interesting to see, like, the different approach, and they explain why, right? There's not just, oh, okay, this is the pie chart, this is like X on
yeah,
renting. And it's interesting because you see how there is this, like, the reasons that everyone gives is so different, so specific, of like, I don't know, I'm the classic example, rent. Okay, there are two approaches that are very, mm, I would say, the opposite one of the other, right? One is
mm,
like, I never stay at home, I don't care, it can be like a studio, and I'm good with it because I never stay at home, I'm always out,
yeah,
and I don't care about, just I need four walls and a roof, and I'm good.
yeah.
Maybe a heating system or air conditioning, more and more these days, and that's it.
Or or air purifier, like
Right.
some people. Yeah,
But then if you want the air purifier, it means you have other needs, right? So the thing is, that's one. And the other, on the other end, you have the approach of, no, actually, the place where I live in, the environment I live in, has such an impact on me that maybe I don't stay too much at home, or maybe I do, but still, like, when I am at home, I need to feel in a certain way. It impacts the way I live so much that I need. And so that's a clear distinction and a clear reason why one spends more compared to the other, right?
yeah. I
But
think money is our way to express what we value and our values, right? So some people value one thing more than another, and I think in the end, that's what money is for, to give value to things and actions.
yeah, so I think the idea is people spend money on different ways, clearly, but it's interesting to understand, like, the rationale behind, like, why one chooses one or the other. And I think there's this big topic on, like, the difference between spending on experiences compared to which we kind of like touch upon, right? Spending on experiences compared to spending on things. And consumerism, I think it embraces also the experiences part. So I'm not saying, if you spend on traveling, you're not a consumeristic person. I would say, how do you say it? but definitely the there is value, at least that's recognized as a, also when we talked about happiness, right? There's value in spending money in experiences and things that connect you with others.
Yeah, I think, and that's what I said before. Money is the tool or the means to express what we value. And for some people it's time, for some people it's items, for some people it's experiences. But in general, like, we spend money on what we value, or at least what we think we value. And this is really, I mean, this is what money was made for, right?
Yeah.
Give value to things. And well, probably originally it was a way to measure time, right? Time spent, or effort, time and effort. um, but it's become more and more a way to uh, label things with value,
Right.
either economically as a society or individually.
Right. And there's this narrative of, and I think this ties very well into the idea of like the around income inequality, and around the fact that, like, there are different layers of population that like can spend, have a purchasing power different from one another. And I
Yeah,
think this uh, the problem I have with all this is this unique single narrative, which is make more money, spend more, get all the shiny things out there, being them relationships, things. But which, by the way, the peak of that, I always find it so funny. Like, take experiences, right? Travels, for instance.
yeah.
There's this like layer of population which basically spends, because they spend their time traveling around the world. Nothing against that. That's amazing. But not necessarily. This is just a hater speech for sure, but like not necessarily experiencing these different parts of the world, because there's this luxury um, segment of like spending when travels, like, which is
Do you mean where you're in the hotel, you never leave the hotel?
right, or
Yeah.
the hotels always look like the same, and you're like, wait a second, am I in Vietnam or France? Doesn't Who knows? Maybe there's like
It's funny.
a
It's
vase.
also like, oh, I went to Mexico. Oh, how
Yeah.
was it? I don't know. I never left the hotel. It's
The
like,
swimming pool
you
was
might,
great.
yeah, you might as well stay where you are.
Yeah, and that's it. So, and like, and there are these some are fun and good. I'm not again hating against it, but the point is, like, there's
Well, a
this,
little bit.
yeah, a bit.
Yeah,
There's a trend on like infinity pools, right? And
yeah.
now all the good hotels have an infinity pool, and at least there you have a view on where you are. But like restaurants, they all look like the same. Rooms look like the same.
I want to say one thing about the pools, because it's somewhat of a topic of debate with my girlfriend, but also in general, like with people. I never understand people that go to a place at the ocean and hang out at the pool. It doesn't make any sense
Yeah.
to me. And like when we pick like hotels together, she's like, "Oh, this one has a pool," and I'm like, "I don't care. It's like 100 meters away from the ocean. I want to go to the ocean. The ocean is so much cooler than any pool."
Yeah. I
And
think the only good pool, like a good aspect on pools, is like, okay, are you in the mountains and you have a heated pool? Okay, that's another thing,
yeah,
right?
but it's different. But like I usually try to be close to the ocean, also because I like surfing and all this
Yeah.
stuff. And the ocean, I mean, honestly, there's almost nothing in the world that calms me down like the ocean. It's ridiculous. It's like I get like this feeling of what is it called? Like just peace, like inner
Mm.
peace when I hear the
Mhm.
waves and the ocean. It's just, and I see the ocean. It's just, I don't know. It just gives me it just like really fills me with I don't know, gratitude to be alive.
That's pretty cool. I
Yeah,
mean, and again, there you are experiencing the place. So yes, you go to one beach or against another in different
yeah,
places. You have different things happening, and there are places where they're empty. Or another funny
yeah,
thing about the seaside environment is in Italy, when you go to the beach, you have like 10 bars or
yeah,
restaurants on the
yeah,
beach,
yeah.
and that's the way we experience it. You go to the US, you go other places, you don't find any, and you're like, why are they all in town? Why don't you put it like close to the beach? Is way better. But that's a different approach, I guess.
I'm sure there's some.
Yeah, but it's completely different, right? We have this thing in Italy where the closer you are to the actual water of the beach, when you eat, the better. Like there are
And
some
the more
rest.
expensive the food, right?
Right,
So
right,
there's the money value aspect. Like people
right.
value it, so they spend money on it.
But then this concept of inequality, it's really there's a fundamental truth of the fact that like you have, going back to what we said about the pyramid of like needs, you need the basics to survive and like live a healthy, happily life, right? But then beyond that, it's subjective, and also this single narrative of like you have to reach specific checkpoints and milestones of wealth so that you can afford to do certain things. And don't get me wrong, like traveling comfortably has a huge impact, I think, on standard of life. Like if you can afford to travel like more comfortably, better, that has an impact. But then if you travel, taking traveling, right, experiencing places, there is a, I believe, a right and a wrong way of doing it. And this top luxury uh, experience of like everything the same, food tasting well, but always the same wherever you go, it kind of like defeats the purpose of traveling for me.
Oh, for sure.
And
I
and
mean, and there's this other. It's really besides the topic, but there's this other trend of like not experiencing anything with your eyes anymore because you're constantly experiencing it through Instagram or your
yeah,
phone, and you're not actually there. Also, like so, it's two different ways to be somewhere without being there.
and it goes back to the idea of like, okay, money, it's an expression of status, it becomes. So then you like have to screenshot your life, you know, take pictures of
Yeah,
everything so that you can like document the fact that you're
yeah,
actually living it. And that goes
and not
back
living it. Yeah,
right, and goes back
yeah.
to this single narrative, which is the problem. And there are different ways of doing it which are not a way less expensive. That's the point, right? So consumerism, in a way, I think it has a positive impact on people. You could say as an economic effect. So, like globalization, I don't find it bad per se. The
Hmm.
way it depends on the approach you have on it, because it brings you novelty, it brings you different approaches. This internationalization of like commerce with the digital world, I think it had like it has a very cool effect, not just improving people's life in different parts of the world because they can sell to other people that are like-minded or have the same needs, which is amazing, which you know the internet like basically introduced, not only exchange of information between this group of people but also like products, which is amazing. But the aspect of being able not only to like experience, like also to experience different close to home, like different cultures, I find it's fascinating. Of course there's this aspect of you don't want to lose your own, and so that's where the clash is, right?
You lose
uh,
your own what
your
culture?
culture, right? The idea is like, yes, now you go to like a big city in Europe and you have like different this foodification trend, right? Everything is becoming a restaurant, and so you go around the city, a big city, and you have like Chinese, Vietnamese, Thailandese, Japanese, Italian. You have we call it Bavarese. No, I don't think. What is the Bavarian food?
Bavarian food, yeah.
Yeah,
Do you
and
have that
yeah,
in
we do in Milan. We have a very cool restaurant where you have pretzels, you have like amazing beers, and people are dressed like typical Bavarian,
yeah.
and it's an experience, right? And I like it. And you, of course, you don't want to like lose your own cuisine culture of the place, but this local culture. But I think it's good that if you live in a place, you also can experience these things.
I mean, yeah, this goes really far away from the topic of money, but I personally, and this is kind of getting political, I guess, because it's like it's about
Mm,
immigration and
disclaimer. Yeah.
integration and so on. But I personally, I love big metropolitan. What do you say? Metro?
Metropolitan. Yeah.
No, big
Metropolis.
metropolis.
Mhm.
What is the plural? Well, big cities. I love
Yeah.
big cities, and the reason is that you get so much diversity in such a small space, and so that you could. I think some of the best places on earth for both food and activity are the most diverse, just because different cultures bring
Yeah.
different things. But then again, as you said, if there's too much amalgamation and too much integration, then we might lose
Mm.
um, these different flavors and everything becomes the same. I don't know, but I
But
think
then,
fusion tends to be amazing. I mean, tends to be the best in all kinds of, like, I think the best music is mixing of musical styles makes a new great musical style. Same for food, same for anything, right? Like ideas mix, great businesses arise, great types of food, great types of
yeah,
yeah,
contamination of like different cultures, I think makes something amazing many times.
yeah, that's
Um,
evolution.
and I
That's
think
what
there's
I
a
hope.
balance. You can like I don't get the word, but like you can safeguard, yes, your own culture, your own traditions, while embracing others. There's a way to do both, because also once if you go too much into the mixed environments, sometimes you want to go back to basics. So
Hmm.
variety again,
Yeah.
it's good. So I think this is the upside of globalization, consumerism. I think this, but then the foodification aspect has a lot of drawbacks, because this now is like this idea of like, oh, it's a quick way of making money. Let me open a new restaurant. People go out and like, and where I live, for instance, like now there's a restaurant every 10 meters. I'm not kidding. Like literally, I have 20 restaurants in a radius of less than 50 meters.
Well, you don't need to
20
cook
restaurants.
anymore.
Right, but then it's too full, and I don't know how people can actually afford to go out so much.
It's crazy, right? Like so many people eat out all the time.
And that becomes like going back to like, how do you spend your money every month? That becomes a good chunk. But then again, I'm not so much against it per se, because I think it's still an experience. You don't go out and have dinner by yourself. I think it's a good way of like socializing, and of the ways you have to spend money, going out to eat, it's not a bad trend, as long as like that has doesn't have an impact on like the environment, which is a problem. um, but yeah, so I think this is, I'm not against that at all. Like I think it's good. It just needs to be regulated a bit, I guess.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah,
no, it's just because before you said like this, everyone has their magic number. So I wonder, what is your magic number, and what are you going to do with it?
magic number, you mean like of
In money, yeah.
it changes, and that I'm afraid of, because
Yeah, you get the lifestyle creep.
yeah, they say like, you if you get used to getting a little bit more, then like you get used to spending a little bit more, and you don't even see that happens. So I keep uh religious track of like what happens after. I'm not the kind of person that like, when I spend, like I'm like, oh, I'm spending this, let me, but then after I've done it, like once a month, I have a full check of like what's going on, where are they going, and where's money going, and the this gives me an insight into, I love actually, maybe because I'm a nerd, I love going back to months, like in years, and see, okay, what was I doing before that has
Mm.
changed? Because it also gives you a perspective of like, what were you doing? And you have like, of course, seasonal trends, like, oh, summer is in a way and winter is in another way. But this, it's an easy way to see like how I'm approaching things. And I think, and I know like it's not too far right now, these days is not too far from what I think while I spend. Like I'm not like, oh yeah, I'm spending in good things that I care about, and then I look back and I'm like, why did I waste money on this? No, it's pretty much aligned. I think this gave me this kind of like way of alignment. So I'm conscious of how I spend, I guess, a bit. But then I'm trying. So the thing I'm trying to do is getting rid of the unnecessary consumeristic per se spending, right, and
Hmm.
trying to like focus more on what really improves my standard of living. I think I mentioned it before, like I'm looking for things where I can spend money to improve directly, not indirectly, but directly improve my life.
Yeah.
And
I think a trend that I also see, I mean, definitely I spend much more than I used to. And a trend that I see now is that I spend money on stuff that I 10 years ago I would never have spent money on. Like for example, I just got this daylight lamp, like the, we talked
yeah,
about the
I was surprised you did.
yeah, I'm just surprised too. And actually I'm not using it right now because I started getting headaches, and I'm not sure if it's because of that, but I'm experimenting. But I think like that's one thing that gets more and more important as you age, I think, is your health, right? I
Mm.
think when you're 20, you're like, oh fuck it. Like
Yeah,
I can sleep on the most uncomfortable bed, and I can eat shit all day long. And right now I think it's like more and more you try to you try to treat your body better. And right now I think like my priority is like my health in many
yeah,
ways, like mental and physical. So like I'm like, okay, if this is to live a year longer, it's definitely worth the money. But I don't think I used to think that way. And if I look back at grad school, which is I guess the first time I had a real salary, that was in New York, right? And New York is so expensive. I know it's
yeah,
like it's 10 years ago and whatnot, But I
Now it
look,
is more expensive.
yeah, I know, but
Imagine.
it's like, I mean, now I'm in Berlin, and Berlin supposedly is much cheaper than New York.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it has increased a lot also. So I think like a coffee can be 4 euros here now too, which is ridiculous, I think. And you know, when a kebab used to be like, I don't know, 2 euros, and now it's like eight, nine. Um, Regardless, I think like it's. I mean, aside from inflation, it's crazy how little money I could live on in New York when I was like in my 20s. I think my stipend was like, I don't know, $2,000 a month, and that from that I had to pay rent and food and fun stuff also. And
Right.
I used to drink a lot back then, and I don't anymore. And I know that it was a big big chunk of my money went to like bars and stuff, which seems ridiculous to me now. But and now I look at my expenses every month. I'm like, how am I spending so much money? And there's always something, like, it's crazy. And usually it's like some crap I buy for the apartment. And like, you know, like now I have like a bed that's so expensive because like I value my sleep so much, and I
Hmm.
didn't as much before. And I feel like every month I'm like, okay, this month I'm gonna spend less, but there's always some big expense every month.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know.
Because there's the unexpected as well, right? There's
Yeah.
also that, and one has to think
But
about.
also it's the lifestyle creep, and I think like when you're younger, and there's also a lot of social pressure, right? When you're younger, you like go to cheap places, and everyone goes to cheap places. So like you meet your friends, and I don't know, you get like you go to the fast food place, and now everyone wants to go to like a fancy place. Not because I don't know, it just becomes more normal, and you don't want to be like, oh, I don't want to spend that money, because then you're kind of like left on the outside.
But then
Uh,
again, that's one thing I think is a very interesting point, because I always struggle with this, because think about it this way: like, you want to meet somebody, one way to do it, which I find perfect for many reasons, health wise, etc., is, why don't you have a walk in the park with a person? You have a chat, you talk, you walk, you see the world outside. And actually, walking, to me at least, it's a good, I think it's very good for, it improves my reflection, right? You know, when you think about things, and like,
yeah,
having a
yeah.
walk helps you. So it makes for a great conversation, walking and talking. I would love to have like work meetings like that. I'm
I
trying
mean,
to
people do it. People do it.
yeah, yeah.
I think there's a lot of the famous like old school scientists and philosophers, like they had their meetings walking somewhere. You see
Right.
pictures sometimes.
So it's not a new thing, right? Nothing shiny. It's not a
Yeah,
consumeristic. But then, why going in a bar for a cocktail? I'm always against that. There's nothing good that comes out of it. You spend money on things that don't help you,
yeah.
and the social aspect. Yes, you
There's expectations, right? And I think that you also have to differentiate between, you know, seasons, because I don't know how the weather is right now in Italy, but here a walk in the park is not so fun most days.
yeah.
So in the summer it is fun, but in the winter it's not fun.
But
So
then you're taking one season out of the year where you can't do it. Fine, there are other things you can do indoor.
yeah,
You can go rock climbing, right? But
yeah,
then yeah. So I think this thing is interesting, because there's a shift you can make, but it's a shift that you live in a society. So either you have a group of people that are on the same page and they want to do the shift, and then this kind of like builds a sort of like a momentum, and then other people might, when sometimes there are healthy trends. Now,
yeah.
I'll leave you with this.
There are some healthy trends right now.
There is one health, which I think is healthy. It's then a bit like, it's transforming, but there's this like trend into art. Like, a lot of art is becoming trendy more than it was before. Before it was elitarian, and that's it, right? Like, people like, they loved art, like, um, academics or passionate people about art, but like, it was
Mm.
not so much widespread and mass culture. Right now, art, at least in Italy, it's getting like very much. It was already, but it's
Like you
getting,
saying, consuming art or
yeah,
producing art?
consuming art, and a
Okay.
bit producing, because it's the side effect, right? So the because you see something like, let me try myself and see my
Mm.
shot at it. But so the what I see is like, it was already interconnected with fashion. Italy is big on fashion. So, and then you have like, more and more it's happening. So fashion is trendy by itself, and of course, and then so art is becoming, especially any kind of art, but like contemporary art, modern art. And so museums are full. which I
Yeah.
find it amazing. Then how much people are getting out of it, I don't know. They are in front of their phone taking pictures every time and posting, but still, like, it's
Yeah.
something. It's in the right direction, right? Yeah,
Yeah. Another one, I think people are getting more health aware.
yeah,
I think sleep is one that people. I feel like, I mean, maybe it's my bubble based on what I consume. I get, the internet auto selects from me, but I think people are taking healthy sleep more
yeah,
seriously, and I also think more and more people drink less. That's at least my perception. Maybe it's not true. Uh, I see that there's a more there's a yeah. I think the relationship of people with alcohol is getting a little bit more healthy, and people see how detrimental alcohol is to your health. It's not
yeah.
enough for sure, yeah, but
Yeah, yeah. I think we can take it back from here next time, because I like this topic of how the environment affects the way you spend money, and there's a big one. Tim, thanks a lot. Yep.